Today, we have to talk about this hearing on the stay-at-home federal workforce. You already know when Republicans get a mic, they're going to do the most. But Marjorie Taylor Greene, she went all the way off the rails with this one. So first, she comes at O'Malley with a whole list of questions. But here's the thing. She never even let him answer. She just kept cutting him off, like she wasn't really there for the answers in the first place. Typical. Then, instead of sticking to real policy issues, she started going way off track, questioning telework like it was some big conspiracy. But the wildest part, she turned it into a personal thing, asking about his faith in God and his beliefs. Now, what does that have to do with people working from home? Absolutely nothing. And let's be real, this wasn't about policy. It was about her trying to push a certain narrative, making it seem like telework is some big democratic problem instead of a modern work solution. But that's how she does. Loud, wrong, and pushing personal agendas instead of facts.
Mr. O'Malley, under your tenure, the Social Security Administration failed to deliver for the American people. On November 8th of last year, your agency announced the Appointment Focused Service, AFS, which directs field offices nationwide to require nearly all services be scheduled by appointment at local offices. While the intent was to reduce in-person wait times, my constituents cannot get through the phone lines to even schedule an in-person appointment. In just the last week, nearly a dozen constituents have contacted my office complaining that when they called to schedule an appointment, they were placed on hold for hours. Then ultimately routed to the voicemail where no one answered and no one called them back, and this has been going on and on and on. This is absolutely unacceptable, and the American people deserve to know the root cause of why this policy was implemented to begin with. The short answer is your telework policies. The AFS was put in place to reduce wait times, yet the only reason the wait times were so outrageous to begin with was because there weren't enough staff in the office to reduce the in-person wait times because your staff is at home, not working for the American people. It is reported that your local offices are only staffed at 20 to 30% on any given day. It's kind of hard to have in-person appointments when people are not at the office. No wonder wait times were so long. And you, Commissioner O'Malley, just signed an agreement to make that permanent for the next 4 years of President Trump's administration, which is more failure, but that's your fault. And by the way, Commissioner, I reached out to you last August. This is the letter that I sent to you, dated August 1st, 2024, requesting an in-person meeting with you to discuss some of the serious issues that my constituents in Northwest Georgia are constantly having. But you never responded to me, Mr. O'Malley. I never got a phone call. I never got a letter back. And that's clearly, maybe you were enjoying the telework policies yourself instead of doing the actual job. Or possibly it's because you were too busy drinking with the union members that you were negotiating with instead of negotiating against on behalf of the American people. Now, Mr. O'Malley, right before you resigned as Social Security Administrator, you signed an agreement with the American Federation of Government Employees on November 27th, 2024. Now, remember, 2 weeks before that, as I mentioned, you were partying with AFGE members in Florida, but you weren't interested in calling me back or were even bothering to return a letter when I wanted to talk to you about very serious issues that my constituents were having. You see, as Republicans, we fully support making sure that every single American receives their benefits from Social Security. You Democrats like to lie about us. We are going to make sure that every single person that paid in gets every single penny that they deserve, that they paid in, it will come out and back to them. That's what's important to us, actually working for the American people. Now, Mr. O'Malley, I'd like to ask you another question. Since you're very interested in being DNC chair, you are, after all, a lifelong Democrat politician. I don't even know if you had a job in the real world, but you have been an elected politician for years. Mr. O'Malley,
And I
You're
ran my
also
own-
a
and I
Catholic,
ran
are you
my own
not?
law
You're
firm.
also a Catholic, are you not?
I am.
Do you serve God or do you serve the Democrat Party?
I serve God and
Okay,
country
then
and
Mr.
family.
O'Malley.
Mr. Chairman, as a
Mr.
Roman
O'Malley.
Catholic, I take offense
I
at the
reclaim
suggestion
my
that
time.
somebody has to
Mr.
choose
O'Malley,
between God
I reclaim my
and
time.
their service to
I
country
reclaim
as a
my
Catholic.
time. Mr. O'Malley, will you be supporting the murder of the unborn up until the day of birth like your party does? As DNC chair, will you be supporting the murder of innocent unborn people? Is that in line with your faith in God and the Catholic Church?
I trust the judgment of women and doctors over the judgment of government.
No, do you trust God's judgment? Do you trust God that he loves and has created every single human being? Do you support the murder of unborn children? And are you going to uphold that evil practice that the Democrat Party wants to continue? You see, abortions, over 95% of them are unintended pregnancies. They use abortions as birth control. So are you going to continue the birth control practice of murdering the unborn children as chair of the DNC? Will that be a policy you'll be
I
supporting?
am pro-choice, and I trust the judgment of women and their doctors over the judgments of government.
Well, thank you for letting God know where you stand with the murder of the unborn.
I talk to God every day.
Yeah, well, you might want to talk to him a little bit more,
Yeah.
Mr. O'Malley, because you're definitely in the wrong. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Now, after all that nonsense from Marjorie Taylor Greene, finally we got someone who brought the conversation back to what this hearing was actually about. Representative Lateefah Simon. She didn't come in there to play. She shifted the focus right back to the real issue, how telework actually impacts people's lives in a positive way. And she wasn't just talking from a policy standpoint. She got personal. She spoke about how telework and the Social Security Administration have helped her personally. You could hear the gratitude in her voice, and that's what made it so powerful. See, this is what these hearings should be about. Real people, real experiences, and real solutions. Not grandstanding, not distractions, just facts.
Good afternoon, and I'm so thankful for being able to be here today. And I want to actually thank all of the witnesses. I appreciate the testimony of each one of you all so greatly. For me, this conversation is actually, it transcends any partisan rhetoric. I mean, I think we can all agree. We can all agree that our widows, that the children of dead parents, that disabled folks, when they call the Social Security office, they want someone to answer. We can all agree that when an elderly person goes to the Social Security office, that they want to be able to talk to someone. We can also hopefully agree that efficiency and efficacy within our federal government, it's the floor, that these folks work for us all. And I come to this politic as a widow. I lost my husband more than a decade ago, and I sat with him after receiving just the most horrible news of our life, that he was going to die in a hospital room. And our little girl was about one. One was going to college, one was going to preschool, and I sat in that hospital room for 5 hours trying to figure out, as my fingers trembled in filling out that ridiculous application, just hoping that it would go through, because you see, Kevin had to leave his job. I had 2 babies. I'm thankful, so thankful that we got a yes the first time. While it took 6 months, we were approved. Shortly after Kevin's death, we got a death benefit, and thank God for that $600, because it was just $200 short of the payment that it cost for the undertaker to take my love from our home on Father's Day. Only 2 weeks after, I had to sit in a Social Security office by myself, weeping with tissues, and I waited 3 hours for a wonderful woman to come greet me as I asked and begged for a death benefit for Layla, who's now 13. I believe in telework. I believe in efficiency. I also agree that folks need to be in their seats when they can. I actually am here to speak about disabled workers and mothers like myself. I was born legally blind, and I remember my mother weeping and talking daily to the Social Security offices and members of our public education system saying, I need support and help for my little girl. She needs to learn how to read. We as a committee have to figure out how to figure it out. Whether you're working at home like that mother that I just talked about, she worked at home for many years, working for the federal government, working for the Veterans Administration as a pacemaker tech. She retired, she worked for 30 years. And you all know, if you work for the Veterans Administration, there have been folks for decades who have been working both in the office and at our wonderful facilities, including Fort Miley, serving our good people. Let's figure it out. Folks deserve the support to live and thrive, particularly the widow, particularly the disabled worker, and children who need every single opportunity to live and thrive. Our folks are dying to survive. I had a question, but I'll save us time and I'll yield back.
This hearing was a perfect example of the difference between folks who actually care about the issues and folks who just want to hear themselves talk. Marjorie Taylor Greene came in with her usual distractions, but Representative Lateefah Simon, she brought it back to what really matters, how telework is actually helping people. But what do y'all think? Should telework stay, or do you think the government should force folks back into the office? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching, and remember to stay woke. See you in the next one.